lights on the island when the storms veiled the moon and stars in the sky. The others looked up at me silently, waiting for my answer. I'd seen them watching me more carefully on the docks, and I'd heard their whispers on the beach. After weeks of light hauls on the reefs, the dredgers were growing restless, and that was never good. But I hadn't expected Coy to be the one to finally ask me outright. I shrugged. Abalone. He laughed, shaking his head. Abalone, he repeated. He was younger than most of the dredgers on Javal, his toasted skin not yet wrinkled and spotted white from the long days in the sun. But he'd earned his place among them tenfold by stealing enough coin to buy the skiff and start his own ferrying trade. That's right, I said. The humor left his eyes when they found mine again, and I clenched my teeth, trying not to let the twitch at the corner of my mouth show. It had been 4 years since the day I was dumped on the blazing hot beach and left to fend for myself, forced to scrape hulls in exchange for rotten fish when I was starving, and beaten for diving in another dredger's claimed territory again and again. I'd seen my fair share of violence on Javal, but I'd managed to keep out of Coy's way until now. Catching his notice was a very dangerous place to be. I stepped up onto the stern, letting the same wicked smile bleed onto my lips that had been painted on his back at the beach. He was a bastard, but so was I, and letting him see how scared of him I was would only make me easier prey. I'd had to find a way to stay alive on Javal, and I'd lose a hand before I let anyone take my chance to get off. Not when I was so close. I let go of the mast, and the skiff flew out from under my feet as I fell back into the water. My weight crashed into the sea, the crystalline bubbles rippling up around me as I floated toward the surface and kicked to warm myself against the chill. The edge of the east reef touched the current, making the water colder on this side of the island. It was one of the reasons I knew there was more pyre down there than what had already been dredged. Coy's boat shot away from me, the full sail curved against the cloudless sky. When it disappeared behind the barrier islands, I cut back in the opposite direction, toward the shore. I swam with my face in the water so I could measure the reef below. The pinks, oranges, and greens of the coral caught the sunlight, like pages of the atlas that used to lay unrolled across my father's desk. A bright yellow sea fan with a broken frond was my mark. I came up, checking my belt again as I dragged the air in slowly, filling my chest, and then letting it out at the same pace the way my mother taught me. My lungs stretched and then squeezed as they emptied in a familiar push between my ribs, and I quickened my draw, sucking it in and pushing it out in spurts, until I took one last full breath in and dove. My ears popped as I carved through the water with my arms, headed for the brilliant colors glowing on the seafloor. The pressure hugged in around my body, and I let myself sink deeper when I could feel the surface trying to pull me back. A school of red-striped tangs pushed past, folding around me in a swarm as I came down. The infinite blue reached out in every direction as my feet landed lightly on a ridge of green coral reaching up like twisted fingers. I gripped the rock ledge above it, scaling down to the breach. I'd first found the pyre when I was scouring the reef for crab, to pay the old man at the docks to repair my eyeglass. The soft hum of the gemstone had found my bones in the silence, and after 3 straight days of trying to uncover it, I caught a lucky break. I'd kicked off an outcropping to surface when a shelf broke off, revealing a crooked line of basalt pocked with the telltale white clusters I knew so well. They could only mean one thing: pyre. I'd made more coin off the traders on the Marigold in the last 3 months with this stash than I had in the last 2 years altogether. Another few weeks and I'd never have to dive these reefs again. My feet settled on the ledge, and I pressed a hand to the rock, feeling down the curve of the ridges. The soft vibration of the gemstone hissed beneath my fingertips.